All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be breaking down the top prop bets here for week 7 in college football on Saturday. Let's go ahead and get into it. I want to start off with two quick plus EV bets that we were getting here, guys. So we got the first one, Surratt to get over 5.5 receptions, the Indiana receiver, who is coming in off of a pretty solid game. We pull up his game log here, guys. It has been mostly good in regards to getting the over. 6 receptions in the last game really went off in that game. 9-3, don't obviously like that. That game was a blowout though. 73-0, really not much to that. Then 9 and then 3. So I look at it. Really, that he's gotten 3 out of the last 4 games. He's gotten the over, especially when we consider kind of the game total in this game. 53.5 points. They are actually 7.5 point dogs in this game. Don't necessarily love that aspect of it. And it is a more difficult matchup. Don't get me wrong there as well. But that's why it's 54% likely to hit. So I think that's a starting point on tonight's slate or for the Saturday slate. Then I also want to get into another prop bet that we were getting here as well. A kicking prop bet. A lot of people are actually betting on this one. Okay, about 5,000 people have bet on this one, and I think it's just because of the green here. And I also I do worry about these ones. The fact that it has about a 53.2% likelihood to hit here, guys. I worry that that's just public money coming in and betting on that simply because he has, gotten the over a bunch. It could end up being close. They are 14.5 point favorites in this game, not the highest scoring game as well. So obviously you just hope he probably makes a field goal and then the rest extra points should be able to do the trick there. We'll see. But obviously that's a little bit more of an appealing prop bet there with him getting the over the last several of games. So another one that I like here is going to be Shambliss to get over his passing yards of 273.5. Okay, we can see just right out the bat that this is one that stands out as a pretty solid bet. So it's a plus EV bet just right out the board. Average sportsbook line at 273.5 on average, but heavily favoring the over there. Then we look at the underdog line, 278.5. Then we look at the projection data as well, liking him a little bit more. And if we look at his game log since he's taken over as the starter here, he has been someone that has been really crushing it. And so he's expected to start again in this game. And so with that, yes, it is a high number. Don't get me wrong there. But it is a pretty easy matchup. That's kind of the worry as well. It's that it could end up being just too easy of a matchup. We look at the spread, massive point spread there. And so maybe the game gets out of hand too fast to the point where they're not having to throw the football. That's my biggest concern with that. But it is a high game total. And so it could end up balancing itself out. But I do think if this one ends up missing, we're just going to look back at the point spread and just say, okay, the game got out of hand too fast and it ended up becoming a run-heavy script at the start. And I do want to call out some of these prop line differences that we are getting here, guys, between PrizePicks and Underdog with some of these fantasy score lines, right? That is something we typically are trying to target, those big prop line differences that we are getting. And if you guys like any of these, just as always, worth calling out. Now, the ones that I like the most is one here, DJ Langway, to get under his fantasy score, but I do think under his fantasy score on Underdog, but I do think this is one I'm going to actually run out as a middle. Now, the projection data likes him to get 15.3, probably a little bit too high, but we are going to know. So big prop line difference. And for his fantasy score to be at 12.5 on PrizePicks and his Underdog line to be at 14.75 on Underdog for such a low line, that's pretty shocking to me. And if we look at it here, guys, he has been a little bit hit or miss and typically isn't really exceeding 12.5 by that much. And to me, that's where I actually end up liking the under a little bit more there on Underdog of 14.75. It is kind of a push matchup, not a matchup that's going to benefit a quarterback or hurt a quarterback. So again, that's kind of why we're looking at more of the under there on Underdog. And then another one where we are getting a pretty big prop line difference between the two sites is going to be with Daniels, the Kansas quarterback. Now, we're not getting enough total sportsbook data coming in to tell you guys whether or not, which site is better or worse in regards to the bets that we're getting here. But this is another pretty big prop line difference. And I really do like the under more so on Underdog of 20.75. And this is actually going to be a pretty darn difficult matchup going against Texas Tech. So for kind of that slate of games, the evening slate of games, it's the most difficult matchup there. And one of the most difficult matchups for opposing quarterbacks thus far this season as well. So I do kind of expect him to struggle. And that's why we are seeing such a short line for him just in general. But this ultimately is another one that we probably should just be best betting on a middle. Again, these lines should not be off by 3. That's the only bets that we are getting where a line can be off by 2, 3 in some situations, whereas all the other ones, that is typically not the case. So I did want to call that one out there as well. And as you guys can see, we are getting plenty of other ones where there are some, pretty substantial prop line differences. So as I always kind of like to call this one out, this Johnson one, I do think ends up being a pretty interesting bet as well. I actually end up liking the over a little bit more so on underdog for that one as well. And now for him, because he's obviously a running back, there is a slight prop line difference. So his actual line on underdog is 17.85. And it's just kind of one of those lines where if we kind of just do the math on it, just naturally, guys. So he's projected to get 123.5 rush and receiving yards there. He's also projected to get 3.5. We can even round up to 4 there. And so that's about 14 points just right there. You tack on a touchdown that he's likely to get, and he's at 18 right there already. So again, just kind of using their data, this line is already just naturally a pretty solid edge for us. Now, look at what we did last week with this, guys. One of the bets hit quite easily. The other one, a player got a concussion, which ended up ruining our slip. That was very annoying. Ended up getting rebooted the next day, actually, which was nice. And his backup ended up really crushing in the game. So it was a little bit tilting there. But this is kind of the exact same situation with that bet. We're just using their data. This line's already too low. And so let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day for underdog, and then we'll give you guys the PrizePicks bet slip, guys. So just recapping these 3 bets. Again, as always, just trying to take advantage of those significant prop line differences that we were getting. So 3 slip bet, feel pretty comfortable with that one. And then, guys, if you don't want to run out these middles, you don't have to. So if you just want to take off these top 2, you certainly can do that. Okay, obviously. And we are just going to place the 3+ EV bets that we were getting. And then there was this other fantasy score prop bet that was popping up in there. A slight prop line difference between PrizePicks and underdog. It was popping up the most. I kind of felt comfortable getting to it. At the same time, nothing too crazy with that one as well. So a 6 slip bet there for you guys. Again, if you don't want to run out that middle, I completely get it. But that's kind of the name of the game when it comes to college football, where we're getting those pretty significant prop line differences. I think it's always worthwhile to target those ones. So guys, that's going to do it for this video. But before we leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell as well so you're not missing out on any of the coverage. If you guys would like access to any of the tools available at 9to5sports.com, head on over there, get access to all the prop tools, all the NFL DFS tools, and fantasy golf tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you being here. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.